Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of our exciting news series where we take a deep dive into understanding HIV and AIDS, pre-exposure prophylaxis or PrEP, and their impact on the LGBTQ community. This series is proudly brought to you by the Queer Voices of Bhutan in collaboration with Save the Children and the Stigma program, as part of our shared commitment to bringing awareness, promoting inclusivity, and empowering communities. To kick off today's important conversation, we're honored to have with us Dr. Lhazeen, a highly experienced public health professional and an advocate for HIV and AIDS in Bhutan. Since May 2024, Dr. Karma has been serving as a national consultant for the HIV/AIDS prevention program, leading the introduction of PrEP in Bhutan. Dr. Karma brings a wealth of expertise, having worked closely with community since the inception of Skipper Program 1. Beyond her impactful work, she also enjoys traveling and exploring new places. In today's episode, we'll explore the significance of PrEP, its role in prevention, and uncover the essential facts and figures that you need to know. So grab a seat, stay tuned, and join us on this journey of learning, understanding, and empowering one another. So let's get started. First of all, Dr. Karma, welcome to our show. Dr. Karma, thank you for being with us today. Can you explain how PrEP works to prevent HIV on a biological level?
You have been hearing a lot about PrEP already. So PrEP is, I must have to repeat it because PrEP, you have to understand, is for people who are not affected with HIV yet. So it's only for HIV negative people. And it is taking medication, which are antiretroviral medication, actually, taking them before the person is exposed to the risk of HIV. So PrEP has got two types of medicine in one tablet, and these are antiretroviral drugs that are already being used in the country for HIV as well as for treatment of hepatitis B. So these are not new drugs, but PrEP has been now introduced as a very important combination preventive intervention for prevention of HIV in the form of tablets. So how it works is that the HIV, you have to understand how the HIV actually, what happens to the HIV virus when it enters the body. So as soon as the HIV virus enters the body now of the person, what happens is immediately the immune system starts working. So in that, the first defense immune system is the white blood cells. They come into fight against the foreign body, that is the HIV virus. And what happens is that you have heard about CD4 cells. So the white cells are the CD4 cells. So what happens, the process, it takes for the whole HIV virus to multiply and replicate itself, it takes a long process. There are about 7 steps involved in the evolution of that virus from the time it enters till it attacks the other cells in the body. So what happens is that once the virus comes in contact with the white blood cells, it enters the CD4 cell. And in the cell, the virus produces, within the virus, there is some enzymes and there are some RNA strands and all that need to be replicated actually for to produce more copies of the virus to be infecting the persons slowly in the course of time. But what happens is this antiretroviral drug, the PrEP drug, contains a group of those medicines are in one group that acts and blocks the enzyme that helps the replication of that virus. So when that is blocked, what happens is that the virus cannot form more copies of itself and the life cycle cannot be completed. The HIV virus life cycle cannot be completed within the third step of the. Within that step, the virus remains dormant. It cannot replicate anymore, so it dies on its own. So that is a very initial stage in the tissue stage. So the virus has to come out and then infect the replication and infect more cells. So as the disease progresses, then you have more and more virus produced. But that is cut short as soon as it comes into the CD4 cell, and the drug starts working in that stage of the replication is stopped there and then in the very early stage.
Thank you, Dr. Karma. That was such a valuable insight on how PrEP works and its importance in HIV prevention. I want to echo you and mention this again, that PrEP is for people who are not yet infected with HIV, and it helps to prevent HIV from being infected. Who is medically eligible to take PrEP, and what should a person know before they consider to start PrEP?
The most important thing you have to remember is that PrEP, who is at risk of HIV. So people who have HIV are not at risk more. And the population that doesn't have HIV is the at-risk population, So the first thing that we have to do is that we have to rule out HIV in that person. So the first thing we do is test the person for HIV, and we do a little more discussion on the exposure risk in the recent months. So even if the person is in the window period, he may come out negative, and the person would have been exposed in the last 72 hours and still has the virus, but it is not yet in the bloodstream and it's not yet replicating. So we have to exclude all these things. So excluding HIV doesn't mean you have to be just negative, but we also look at whether you were exposed in the last 72 hours or whether you are in the window period that you are not getting detected as HIV at the moment. So that you have to really rule out, and that has to be done very diligently. And that is why when we start when we start PrEP, it's extremely important that the health worker or the person who has come for PrEP gives the correct history to the person about the exposure in the recent years. And the other important thing is that HIV, this PrEP drug has a little bit of side effects are reported, but then the side effect that we are worried is the kidney functions. Initially, they have been saying that kidney functions can be if you have underlying kidney disease, or if you have an underlying disease that affects the kidney, like hypertension, diabetes, and if the person is a little bit elderly adult, or older adult group, like under 50, but then still above 39 and 49 years group are elderly ones who could have underlying diseases like hypertension, diabetes. We have to be really careful because it affects the kidney as well. So these are kidney functions has to be good. So we have to monitor that. And as I already told you, that these drugs have already been used for HIV and for hepatitis, chronic hepatitis management in the country. If ever these people have had allergy to those previous treatment with the same drugs, or if they have allergy or any history of that documented, or even he knows about that, then these are the criteria that you have to be very careful to rule out.
My next question is, can PrEP be used by all genders, especially transgender individuals? And are there any specific consideration for these groups?
Actually, if I talk about PrEP in general, I think PrEP is for anybody who is at risk of getting HIV. Of course, there are various groups, and for every individual, whether you are in the same group like transgender group or whether you are in the MSM group, the most important thing is assessing. The very important thing is assessing the risk behavior of the person, the person's risk habits, the sexual habits or other personal habits are very important to understand. So in this, when we introduce this PrEP, we have to, we cannot generalize it for all transgender women, but then of course for the transgender people and all, I think it's very important to understand that for most of these transgender women especially, and the women group, I think because of the physiology itself, women have more risk than men, and the type of sex, like if you anal sex is more risky than vaginal sex, so the type of sex and all those things. So based on all these things, you have to do a thorough assessment. So when we take consideration all women, whether they are born, if they are born women, and if they are having this vaginal sex, the type of sex and all those, you have to take the PrEP that we give, that we choose to provide, has to be daily PrEP for most women. And because of that, and then actually we have the other consideration that we make for men having anal sex, and men having sex with men. This men, only the event-based pill can be used by MSM, and who have very infrequent sex, who do not use condom consistently. So there are 2 doses, but for majority of the people, transgender women included, I think the daily dose is best suited for them. And transgender women and all, they take a lot of oral gender-affirming hormones and all those things. So people on gender-affirming hormones, I think it is important that you have to take daily pill, because although there are not much of evidence, but then they say that the drug, to get to the level it is most effective, it takes a little bit longer time, they say, in the people who are taking hormones and all, but it is just not much well documented, but it's just, so they just say to take precautions. So the only precaution is those who are taking gender affirming hormones of any sort, you go for that daily pill.
Thank you for highlighting that PrEP is inclusive of all genders, including the transgender individuals, and the consideration that they have to that it makes to make it accessible for everyone. And I think we had quite a lot of discussion whether people who identify as transgenders and are undergoing hormone replacement therapy, that whether they can use it or not. And thank you for clearing it up that they can use it. And my next question is how soon after using PrEP that it starts to work?
Yeah, that's a very important question. PrEP doesn't work as soon as you start taking it. You have to take the pill on daily basis, and PrEP works only if there is high adherence. So if you start missing erratically, you are taking PrEP as you like it, and you are missing today's pill so this will not have a very good impact. For PrEP to be highly impactful, I think they say that minimum, we always say that before you have a sexual exposure, you take PrEP for 7 days. Daily you have to take. Even if you miss one, taking 7 days gives you 99% the risk of getting HIV is reduced, it seems, 99%. if you forget to take one day, if you miss it, the efficacy reduces by 9, it becomes 98, 97, 96. So if you go on missing, then the level that is required in the blood won't be met. So the moment the level in the blood reduces, then you have, and if you are exposed, and if you are not using condom, you may get HIV if you have a HIV positive partner. If you don't know that the partner has HIV, you don't know the status of the partner. And even if the partner is positive, HIV positive partner, if he hasn't been taking his drug properly and missing his daily doses, and if he hasn't been on antiretroviral for a longer duration to suppress his viral replication, if he still has high viral load, then missing even 1 day or 2 days is going to make some difference. So that is why whenever we use PrEP, we always know PrEP is not just tablets. No, we provide PrEP as a package. So those who are at risk of sexual exposure, we always tell them it is always better you combine it with condom. PrEP doesn't replace condoms. Condom cannot replace PrEP because they have their own functions, how they prevent. So it's very important that when you start having this medication, you asked me how many days, when you have decided you will have PrEP, that means you have done your HIV test. So you take PrEP daily for 7 days. When you are taking this PrEP, first day you haven't met that level, the level isn't reached. So when you start that, if you have more than one sexual partner, or if you have high risk sexual exposure, it's better to combine it with condom when you start. So that by the time it reaches that 7, you are very safe. When you have any type of sex, you are very safe. Then once that 7 days is covered, you have your protection level is more than, it's 99, around 99% they say. And then you have that sexual exposure and you continue taking that pill. And it's also very important you know when to stop it. Because PrEP is not, people think that, oh, once I start PrEP, no. You have to be, adherence means you have to adhere to what the doctor tells, how the medicine should be taken, how many days before your exposure you have to take, how you have to take when you are exposed to sexual risk. And when you are no more at sexual risk, you don't stop it abruptly. You have to still continue it for 7 days more. After your last sexual exposure, you take another 7 days more, and then only you stop. And it's very important that people should understand that once you start PrEP, it doesn't mean that you have to continue lifelong like the ART that you have to do. When you take PrEP, it depends. When you are at high risk, you know how to start, use and stop PrEP as I told you. But when you are no more in that high risk situation, then you don't have to take PrEP if you are in low risk situation. So PrEP is something that you can cycle, like you can, that cycle, no? You take it when you are at high risk. Then when you are in low risk, you don't have to think about PrEP. But then if you have to start, if you have any risk, you will already know from looking at your partners and where you are. And also, this sounds a little bit complex initially, but then it's with education, I think it's going to be really easy once people, the peers start sharing their experience. And also,
thank you so much, Doctor, for sharing that very insightful information. If you can tell us what are some of the potential side effects of using PrEP?
Actually, when you use PrEP, there are mild side effects, and maybe around about 20%, or somebody might feel a little bit of, most of them are gastric related, gastric related, stomach related, I mean. They might feel nausea, they might feel a little bit of stomach cramp. Some of them may feel giddiness, headache, and all these are mild side effects. And in the big studies, they've said only about 20% of the people felt mild side effects. The bigger side effects that we really monitor are the kidney functions. No, the kidney, 1 in 100 might have deranged kidney functions. Like when you do the kidney function tests, you see a little bit increase in the creatinine level and all those things they say, but it is 1 in 100 they have said, which is also resolvable. If you find that it has the creatinine level or the kidney function has deteriorated a little bit, you can immediately stop it, and within 1 month or so it gets resolved on its own. So these also people say are not very common. And then the other thing also they have reported in the study is that they say that on the bones there is a little bit bone thinning effect of the bones, but then that is in the studies they have said 1 in 200 people or something. But then that also, once you feel that people are getting that side effect, if you stop it for about a month or so, then the functions, everything gets resolved, it seems. So we don't worry that much about the side effects. And few people who might have adverse reaction to this, we have a mechanism to identify that and to reporting system and to emergency responses, and all those are all put in place to address all these issues. So I think people shouldn't worry a lot about the major side effects. Minor side effects with any drug, you feel side effects with nausea, headache, vomiting and all.
Thank you so much, Dr. Karma, for sharing such deep knowledge and your expertise on the medical aspect of PrEP. Your insights have truly helped us understand how this groundbreaking preventive tools work and its potential to transform HIV prevention, especially for those at high risk. To our viewers today, the episode has been an eye-opener, shedding light on the science behind PrEP and its role in empowering individuals to take control of their health. If you have been curious about PrEP or considering it, we encourage you to seek advice from a healthcare professional and take that important step towards protecting yourself. Remember, knowledge is our greatest ally in breaking the cycle of HIV transmission and stigma. If you found this discussion helpful, please share it with your friends, your community, to spread awareness. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of our series. Stay with us for more engaging conversation in the coming weeks as we continue to explore topics that matter to the LGBTQ+ community and beyond. Until next time, stay informed, stay safe, and take care.